Throughout this past semester in educational psychology, I have studied and learned about a number of things that I value and deem important. Intentionality, zone of proximal development, scaffolding, rehearsal, play, self-esteem, and conditioning are all things that I hope to carry with me as I finish my education and as I build a classroom of my own. Becoming an effective teacher consists of attaining many attributes, such as being intentional. Having intentionality means doing things with reason and with a purpose to move towards a specific outcome. I must be intentional as I make decisions and as I plan and prep lessons. I want to be intentional in these ways so I can help my students achieve goals and reach their highest potential. Being intentional requires constant reflection. Again, I must be intentional as I make decisions and as I plan and prep lessons. As I reflect on previous lessons, I can make notes of things that were or were not effective and adjust my plans accordingly. In doing this, I'll be intentional in ensuring that my students are receiving adequate instruction to help them reach their goals. Also, as I plan lessons, I need to make sure I'm teaching content that is within my student zone of proximal development. Here, students work on tasks that they cannot yet complete on their own, but can with the support of a more knowledgeable other. It is important to teach within my student zone of proximal development because it is believed that this is where the most effective learning takes place. It is also important to teach within my student zone of proximal development to ensure that they're receiving proper support on tasks they cannot complete on their own. Each of my students will have a different zone. This will require me to get to know each and every one of my students and build strong relationships with them. In doing this, it will ensure that I am meeting the needs of everyone by teaching within their zone of proximal development. Effective learning will occur if relationships are built. As I teach within my student zone of proximal development, I will need to scaffold my instruction. As I scaffold my instruction, I will gradually lessen the amount of support I provide as students are gradually able to work on the given task on their own. Scaffolding is important to me as a teacher because it will guide how I construct my lesson plans to help students learn new information gradually. Scaffolding also helps create a supportive learning environment so effective learning can occur. The instructional model, the gradual release of responsibility, is used to scaffold instruction. The content I present to students using scaffolding must be rehearsed. Rehearsal of information helps move said information from working memory to long-term memory. If I'm being intentional about what I teach, all of the information I will present will be crucial for students to understand and thus should be rehearsed so they have it in their long-term memory. It is important for me as a teacher to understand that rehearsal helps move information from working memory to long-term memory because I need to ensure that I'm providing an ample amount of time and opportunity for my students to do so. It is crucial that I plan for rehearsal if I want my students to carry the information they learn in my classroom with them for the rest of their lives. As a teacher of young students, it's also important for me to know the positive benefits that play can have on children and make sure I also provide time for this to occur on a regular basis in my classroom. Play exercises linguistic, cognitive, and social skills, and it contributes to personality development. Integrating play is extremely important to me as it has many benefits and it allows kids to be kids. I will have a class full of kids, not adults. I hope to never lose sight of that. Children need time to have fun and explore, aside from regular instruction. As a teacher, I want to constantly support the development of each of my students. I have the power to positively affect their growth, but I can also negatively affect it. I plan to positively affect their growth and development by encouraging my students to develop a positive self-esteem. Self-esteem is how we evaluate our skills and abilities. Self-esteem can be influenced by experiences at school. It is important to me to help my students develop positive self-esteem to boost their confidence and encourage risk-taking to enhance their learning. Having a positive self-esteem is also important as students can carry it with them throughout their lives. In order for effective instruction and positive self-esteem building to occur, I have to build a productive classroom environment. Classical conditioning is one way to achieve this. Classical conditioning is used to evoke conditioned responses. Classical conditioning is important to me as a teacher in regard to classroom management. If I want to implement specific classroom management tools, I must condition my students to respond in a desired way, a conditioned response, to a specific stimulus, a conditioned stimulus. Another form of conditioning I plan to use in my classroom is operant conditioning. Operant conditioning is important to me as a teacher if I want to change my students' behavior. Operant conditioning uses pleasant and unpleasant consequences to do so. Positive and negative reinforcers are any consequence used to strengthen behavior. Knowing that reinforcers strengthen behavior is important if I want to increase the frequency of a desired behavior in my classroom, such as completing assignments. Reinforcers must be individualized. One reinforcer may motivate one student to strengthen the desired behavior, but not for another student. I will also use reinforcement on a variable ratio schedule. Students will be unaware of the number of behaviors required for reinforcement, increasing stability of the desired behavior. I believe that everything I will carry with me that I have learned from this course ties back to creating and developing relationships with my students. For all effective learning and classroom management to occur, I must create a safe, loving, and welcoming environment that promotes acceptance of one another and promotes risk-taking behaviors.